I just had sort of a realization, I guess, a few months ago, and I wanted to share that. A lot of artists are in between categories. There's something that I've noticed between the artists who do make a living and the artists who are struggling to even sell one painting. I think it is being between categories. There's a lot of debate about this, but this is just something that I've come up with the way that I understand it. There's fine art, right? Then there is commercial art, which I think of as illustration. So it's art for the purpose of selling a product. Then you have some nuances within fine art. So you have sort of like high art, which I think of as like the art stars. You don't necessarily have to think about selling it to individuals because institutions are wanting their artwork. They're wanting it for the purpose of academics or culture. This sort of art is gonna be something that's a little bit more provocative. People are gonna wanna have conversations over it. It's relevant. That's how these people become famous, because it's relevant to the moment in history in which we live. It's not necessarily pretty, although it may be. I think that's why a lot of times people have a hard time understanding it, because they're like, you just taped a banana to a canvas. You could argue that it is also, being supported by large auction houses and investment firms. And then you have fine art where there are people who are in their local community painting landscapes, custom portraits and things like that. And then there's another category, and this one is decorative. So this is like, I need something to match my couch or my aesthetic in my home, and I'm looking for this style. I'm looking for something big that's going to cover the walls, or something small that will be part of a gallery wall, but it is more so decorative. I think a lot of artists find themselves between these categories. Sometimes they might even find themselves sort of in illustration, which is a totally different thing. Like, you're being paid by a company as a contractor or as an employee to produce artwork that's going to sell a product. But I think most of the time we find ourselves imitating those who are art stars, or those who are selling decorative work, or those who are fine artists who are painting their landscapes in their local community or painting portraits. Like, we just don't know where we fit. One thing that I realized is that you do have to fit into a category. How will people find you? How will people know how to even look for you if you do not fit into a particular category? And how will you even sell your work? Within these categories, there's some sort of rules that may be written or unwritten, but they are there. Like, people understand that decorative work is going to be large. It's going to focus more so on color and how it fits into an environment of a home. People understand that maybe high art is going to be sort of strange and doesn't necessarily have to match anything. And people understand that the fine art that you see local artists making is going to be about that area that you live in. So maybe you want to own a piece because it reminds you of a place that you used to go visit, or maybe you're getting a portrait done of your pet or portrait done of your child. But all of these are sort of in different categories, and people understand them differently, whether they know it consciously or not. If you are between categories, you might have trouble selling work. I love to paint portraits, but I found myself painting portraits of women, which is great. I could definitely get commissions for, and I have gotten commissions for painting portraits of women, right? But selling original work of people who are not celebrities, just random sort of people, is gonna be really hard. And especially if it's large work. You know, people are gonna wonder, well, who is this? And if you pay a lot of money for something, you're probably gonna want a face that's recognizable, or maybe even your own, or the face of a relative. I was sort of working as a portrait artist without the patron, without the person who was commissioning the portrait. At the same time, trying to make something that was sort of decorative, but then thinking of some of the people that I like in, you know, the high art community. Nothing wrong with that, but it's really hard to sell the original piece that way if you're trying to sell it to a person who's going to put it into their home. Is it impossible? No, but you could wind up kind of putting yourself into sort of a corner because you're making work that is great, but it's just in the wrong category. This painting that's behind me is not that large, but if it were smaller, it could be part of a gallery wall. And it would be a nice, interesting piece to have in you know, as part of a gallery wall, maybe of other kinds of portraits, or maybe a collection, sort of. But when it's larger like that, or medium sized, then people think of it differently, and it has to fit into somewhere. Or where do I put it? Do I put this over my couch? No, I don't think so. Or do I put it over a chair or a console or something like that? Who is this person? Is this a famous person? Is this, it's definitely not someone that I know. You see how that is kind of a problem. Think about what the categories are and where do you fit. If you want to do decorative work, there's nothing wrong with that. But do expect that people are going to be looking for decorative work to be more abstract. Even if it's a figure or if it's a landscape, it might be an abstracted version of it, because the more specific it is, the harder it is to display in your space. But just the subject matter should be a little bit more universal. Now, of course, there is more of the illustration side. If you're doing like fan art and stuff like that, that doesn't apply. You're definitely gonna have you know, a smaller audience, because most of us are not displaying you know, large fan art at our houses. Find your category and stick to it. And you know, if you want to change, then you can do a series in a different category. Now I'm working on just doing small studies of portraits and perhaps still lifes and things like that. And then you can show those things and sell them, you know, not medium-sized works or large works for studies, because you want to save that effort and time for commissions. Hope you guys got something out of this, and I'll see you in the next video.